Let's review our Sunday school lesson for today. We are in our summer quarter for the months of June, July, and August, entitled The Righteous Reign of God. And we're looking at the sovereign rule and reign of God. We're looking at it through the prophets and what type of rule God will have over the earth, as well as the Messiah King that would be promised. We're in unit number 3 for the month of August, entitled God's Eternal Reign. We're looking at 4 lessons from the New Testament epistles that deal with life, as well as how we should live under God's kingdom authority. Today, our lesson is lesson number 11 for August the 13th, 2023, entitled Build Up One Another. Our printed passage today is Romans 14, verse 10 through 23. As we think about this lesson today and we continue the thought of living under God's rulership here on the earth, last week we talked about how we live as citizens is a representation of our home country of heaven. And part of this kingdom, it is a lifestyle that we uphold. Well, this week we want to talk about this kingdom, that it is one that is concerned about other citizens. These are the words of Paul as he opens up chapter 14, in which he speaks about some who consider diets and days more than the other, in which they think of those things and esteem them and make them higher. And in essence, it's causing us to judge one another, causes rift, causes separation. And Paul says it like this: it causes others to stumble and fall. These small differences, whether it's a special day that one esteems higher than the other, or whether it's eating meat or not eating meat, which opens up in chapter 14, that causes the brother to fall or your sister to fall. Paul's main purpose is that if there's anything that causes your brother or your sister to stumble and to fall, avoid it. Because in part of God's kingdom, we ought to consider one another. Then he says in verse 10 and 13 that we ought to stop judging one another. Because ultimately we're going to be judged before God, who we each have to give an account to. So instead of judging one another, be more patient and loving and tender with one another. Show those fruit of the Spirit with one another. Then in regards to causing the brother to stumble or to fall, Paul says when it comes to food, that argument of what is clean and what is unclean, Apostle Paul says it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, but it's that which comes out of him. So when we're part of the kingdom is regulated by our inner hearts. And so what we must do is found in verse number 19. As part of God's kingdom, continue to edify, continue to build one another up. What a very meaningful lesson that the church needs right now.